Hello, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Okay, you have time. Okay.
Muted from the YouTube one.
You're right. Okay. I call this meeting to order at 4:20 p.m. Welcome to the Internal Affairs Committee meeting 5610. For the record, the date is Thursday, August 13th, 2026, and the time is 4:20 p.m. We are currently located in the CSUN Senate Chambers, room 313R. We also have members joining us online through Zoom. All the senators joining online should have their camera on during the meeting. I will now open up here the roll call. Chair Lay is here. Vice Chair Shelton Lott is excused. SPT Barlier is excused. Senator Cameron.
Present.
Senator Prieto.
Present.
Senator Sade.
Present.
Senator Cos. Present. Senator Rafa.
Present.
Senator Winnetts. I'm saying that right. Winnetts is unexcused. Okay. With 6 members present, we are now meeting quorum. At 4:21 p.m., I'll now open item number 1, land acknowledgement. The University of Nevada, Las Vegas wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities of this region and recognize that the university is situated on the traditional homelands of the Nuuli Southern Paiute people. We offer gratitude for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to study, learn, work, and be in community with this land. I will now open public comment at 4:21 p.m. This is a time that anyone from the public may come and speak. Members of the public, you are limited to 3 minutes for your public comment. Please refrain from saying slanderous or any defamation of character, as I have the right to limit your comment. When you come to the podium, please state your first and last name and spell your last name for the record. Does anyone have any public comment in person? Seeing none, does anyone have any public comment online or through the call line? I'll wait 30 seconds for the delay. Okay, seeing none, I will now close public comment at 4:22 p.m. And at this time, I'll now open approval of minutes. Are there any discrepancies from the 5609 meeting minutes that were posted to the public? Seeing none, I will now go into a period of voice vote. All in favor of approval of 5609 meeting minutes, please say yay. Or aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. With 5-0 the meeting minutes for 5609 has been approved. And at 4:23 p.m., I will now close approval of minutes and at the same time open item 6A, the discussion and approval of Senate Bill 5684, an act to amend the CSUN bylaws, Chapter 105, constitutional amendment procedure. Attorney Reyes, you may have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte. Yours for the record. This is Senate Bill 5684, an act to amend the CSUN bylaws, Chapter 105, constitutional amendment procedure. This goes to reflect. I didn't get to put it in one of the addendums, but if you remember one of the reports from President Medusa before, that a section in the NSHI handbook by the border regions, they proposed, and it actually passed in the border regions, meaning that the BPSA office has to review our constitutional amendment procedures before it even hits general council. So I am just copying what they passed in their own meeting to our own procedure for the constitutional amendment process to, as reflected in Addendum A, Chapter 105, Section 1, letter D, upon passage of any constitutional amendment by the Internal Affairs Committee, the proposed amendment shall be presented to the BPSA for review. And in letter E, upon review of the BPSA, the proposed amendment shall be presented to the UNLV General Counsel Office for additions and review. But that's the only change within Chapter 105, Constitution Amendment Procedure. And with that, I would yield the floor, and I'm open for questions. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
It's a typo. It's fine.
Thank you, AG Reyes. Does anyone have any discussions or questions regarding the Senate bill itself? Okay, seeing none. And then for the record, Senator Cos went for a point of personal privilege at 4:22 p.m., return at 4:23 p.m. And SVT Barolera was present in the meeting at 4:24 p.m. We now have 7 voting members present. But are there any points of discussions and questions regarding the Senate bill itself? Okay, seeing none, we'll now go ahead and go into a period of voice vote. All in favor of approving Senate Bill 5684, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Okay, with 7 to 0 to 0, the Senate Bill 5684 has been approved. Right. At 4:26 p.m., we'll now close agenda item 6A and at the same time open agenda item 6B, the discussion and approval of Senate Bill 5685, an act to amend CSUN bylaw chapter 401 Treasury. Attorney General Reyes, you may have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Just for the record, this is Senate Bill 5685, an act to amend CSUN bylaws chapter 401 Treasury. This goes specifically to making a change within section 1. Yes, chapter 401 Treasury, section 2, disbursement of funds from Treasury. I wanted to make an exception, a distinguished line between the executive board discretionary line and the CSUN discretionary line. In section 2, disbursement of funds from Treasury, letter A, number 1, it says the following items do not require further Senate approval upon passage of the CSUN fiscal year budget, and I'm including the expenditures from the executive board discretionary line in this in number 1, and then in number 2, the following items do require further Senate approval upon passage of the CSUN fiscal year budget, the expenditures from the CSUN discretionary line. And those would be all the changes in the disbursement of funds from Treasury. From what I've seen, it seems that in the past, in practice, the executive board discretionary line does not require Senate approval to use their funds. So I'm just matching what we do in practice. And with that, I yield the floor. I'm open for questions.
Are there any points of discussions and questions regarding the bill itself, SVT, by the way?
Yes, I have a question, for section 2, the second section on the need to get Senate approval. In practice, if you know what this has looked like or what this would look like, since like for sponsorships, scholarships, they go through the respective committees, but for like the discretionary budget line, where would that go to?
Juras, for the record, it seems that for discretionary line, it doesn't go through a committee itself. It doesn't go through e-board. It would go directly to, well, depending on what they plan to use it. I believe that our business operator, Palacios, will be the one who uses would select how to use the funds. That answers your question.
SVT
Yeah.
earlier.
No, so I kind of meant more of like, well, it requires Senate approval. Like, for example, for scholarships and sponsorships, we know that we need to create a bill for it.
Yes.
So for the CSUN discretionary line, will we also need to create a bill? And if so, like I'm saying, is it just a bill that goes straight to the Senate, or where is it supposed to originate from?
8 euros for the record, there's no bill.
Oh, okay.
Does that
Uh,
answer your question?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, are there any further points of discussions or questions regarding the bill itself? As we read to earlier.
Sorry, I'm still a little confused because it says it needs Senate approval. So how do we go about getting that approval? Outside of like the business coordinator is the one doing it, but how do we get that approved from Senate?
Advisor.
Advisor, for the record, maybe this helps clarify, but you let me know. So you have the annual budget that gets approved by the president, and then it goes through Ways and Means, and then it goes through, okay, so that whole process has to happen, and then that gets Senate approval, if that makes sense, for the fiscal budget. So you all see, like, how much is in discretionary, how much is it, like, you all see that 2 times, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, with the procedure. Is that clarifying, or are you saying something different?
I think I'm saying something. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm saying something different. So you know how for the executive discretionary budget line, the executive board, I'm sure they have their own internal like rules and how they go about, I guess, using their own budget line. But for the general system budget line, in order, for example, say a senator may need, I don't know, something out of emergency for like an event or something like that. So the part where it says it requires senator, or maybe I'm just not reading that right, but I was interpreting that in order for someone to use the general system discretionary line, it needs Senate approval. Like, what if we don't want to use all of it, if that makes sense? I feel like maybe not.
Sorry.
Senator Cost.
Senator Cost, the record. I think I know what you're saying, but I think you just read it wrong. I
Okay.
think this is saying that it doesn't need.
Like,
But
like-
it says it requires.
You read this?
Right.
Adrian has for the record, I think you're confusing both of these 2 things. Like executive board doesn't require a bill, but the season general one does require a bill. I don't know if that like okay, does not what are you asking for? Like the following items do not require further Senate approval, but they were already approved when they passed the whole fiscal year budget. But then this season discretionary line, that line requires approval upon passage the fiscal year budget.
Senator Cost.
Senator Cost, for the record. I think what he's saying, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is how I'm interpreting it, is that the discretionary board discretionary line is different than the entire CSUN discretionary line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You're trying to make a distinction between the two.
Yes.
But I guess my question is, why do you think there shouldn't be a Senate bill? Or yeah, like why?
Adrian.
Adrian for the record, because that's what they've been doing in practice. There's no bill.
Senator Cost.
Senator Cox, why have they been doing that in practice? Because wouldn't that just be wrong?
Yes, Adrian for the record, yes, that could be wrong, and they need to. They might maybe need a bill, but they're different from the general line. So
So it's just for the record, I'm obviously from a different branch, so I'm trying to get like a granular level. So then, Attorney General Reyes, what is the process usually been in the past for something to be taken or for some amount of expenditure to be from the CSUN discretionary? What has that looked like in the past?
Adrian's, okay.
Over here, so CSUN discretionary had been used for travel. So let's say that, so the president is supposed to go to all these different board of regents meetings around Nevada. So that's been used for that in the past. They've used it for different trainings, different workshops. I can kind of look up the specifics in the background here, but it's just been used at their discretion, if that makes sense.
As we see earlier.
I think, and that could be wrong, but I think what he was asking was the executive one, I think has been used for that. But the CSUN general one, I think at least in my time, I've never seen someone use it, because that's the distinction that we're talking about. So the executive discretionary, and I could be wrong, I know the executive board has the ultimate say on how they use it and how they go about deciding like how to use it, if that makes sense. But my question again goes back to section 2, says the following items do require further Senate approval. So the way I interpret that is we need like some sort of vote because it needs to be approved. So my question is, looking into sections or that section, but sections 3, 4, 5, or at least 3 and 4, we know that if that happens, the Senate approval ultimately originates from a committee. But because no committee has a specific, I mean, at least in my understanding, they don't have a scope of practice to use the citizen discretionary line. So where does that originate, or like how does that go about getting the Senate approval if a senator or someone from the JC or someone from the E-board wants to use the citizen discretionary line?
Senator calls for the record. So I guess I understand what you're saying now. I understand what you're saying. So shouldn't the task as the internal affairs committee be, shouldn't we maybe find somewhere to put that? Without getting into new business, but like,
So from my quick high-tech control F search of our bylaws, it doesn't, you're right, it doesn't fit anywhere and there's no spot in which it belongs to. It just is like, it says where funds can go into it, but there's no process of which to disperse them from. So I do think that some decisions should be made for legal, I don't want to go out of my purview, but for legal clarification, I do think some process should be derived, something should be written to describe what the process is. Maybe it's something as simple as like a Senate vote, but I understand what Advisor Ho was saying. So yes, technically CSUN has seen the amount of money in the total discretionary line. It's just what do you do with that? The E-board has the decision. Then once you see it, the whole Senate has seen it already. Well, the E-board can go in and make a call and sign a paper and the president can spend money. But for the Senate side, there is no process. It's just like it just sits there. But technically, it's not even the legislature's money. It's all of CSUN's discretionary funds. So I do think there has to be some system there, also showing like due deference to like separation of powers, and that there should be an accessible system for all 3 branches of government to pull from it. So I don't know if that process would be like you give the authority to the chief of a specific branch. So for example, either the SPPT, the Chief Justice, or the President can bring a bill to the Senate floor for approval. But I am curious how that process may work, just to keep that open for all 3 branches of government to be able to propose for the Senate to give them money from that line. Because you can appropriate it to that box, but you can't further appropriate it to a specific reason or a specific cause. And that's the process that I think we're looking at.
Senator Cost, for the record, I think I don't feel totally comfortable voting on this bill unless that distinction is made exactly where this is coming from.
Adherence.
Oh, okay. It just for the record, yes, I understand from both points of view. Like, if this agenda item would not pass, which is fine. Currently, as it states, the current language is just expenditure from the discretionary line require Senate approval upon passage of the fiscal year budget. My interpretation is that this needs a bill regardless regardless of what they choose to do with the discretionary line. Like, for my interpretation is that you still need a Senate bill to require those funds to get out, regardless of the branch. Even if this were not to pass, and okay, the executive board doesn't get to use their own discretionary line as they choose to, the current language still reads to me that you would need the Senate bill to use the funds from the CSUN discretionary line.
Senator Cost.
Senator Cost, for the record, where does the bill just go straight to the Senate then, or what committee is the bill going through? It's a question, like what committee, if any, is it going through? And if not, is this going straight to the Senate? And if a judicial council member wanted it, would they just have to have a senator sponsor that bill? Like, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Okay, for the record. So from what I'm reading, when when it doesn't specifically set a standing committee, I would assume that it goes directly to the Senate. And if someone has to sponsor, I would give that power to the Senate because they're the one writing the legislation. So I would assume, as I interpret that, the bylaws, that they're the ones who get the power to write that bill, and they're the ones who pass this discretionary line item. Because there is no say that it has to go through Ways and Means or it has to go through university initiatives. It just goes for their Senate approval. I yield.
I can't really comment on what I think because it's kind of my job. So I can't say whether like where I think it should go. What I can say is what I think should be done. And I do think that there is a gap here. Like we just don't know. I don't think the bylaws or the Constitution, from what I can read and have looked through, and I have at this point looked through everything where the discretionary line's mentioned in our bylaws, and we just know it exists and that's the end of the line. So I do think it would be beneficial for either something to either A, the Senate makes a bill or somebody makes a bill, because there can be many sources of bills, and describe specifically what the process should be to spend from the discretionary line, or you send this to the Judicial Council to answer the question that Attorney General Reyes has put forward, but like put the force of law behind it and say, no, this is what we think should be done, and this is how we think this should be handled. Which either way, even if this council reviews it, the Senate would still have to pass something to actually change the bylaws. But as it stands, I think you do have a gap of law. I also think there's a lot of legal questions that surround because the executive already has its own discretionary fund. This is a fund that is for all, and not saying my viewpoints on whether yes or no, these are good or bad questions, but just questions that I think we're gonna hit. Because this is for all of CSUN, this discretionary fund, if it is something that is like senators have access to it alone to propose bills, unlike other, like the Attorney General can write a bill and propose it, has the ability to through the executive branch. But because this is a CSUN discretionary fund, would that make it more of a legislative discretionary fund? I also think you could bump into a separation of powers issue if that's how it was written. So my without saying what I think on whether how anyone would legislate on this, I do think there are at least two big questions that stand first constitutionally before you hit the question of what you should do with the discretionary fund. And once you guys answer that, and you can answer them through legislation, right? Because at the end of the day, the Senate has the power of the purse. Then you can actually go into the process of okay, what's the flow going to look like? Are we going to start in this committee, Ways and Means, because that's who controls the money, and then we're going to go down to the next side? Does it go straight to the Senate? I think those are policy questions, but where it originates, I think is more of a constitutional question. But I'll end it there.
Senator Cos.
Senator Cost, for the record, I moved to table this agenda item indefinitely.
I second.
Seconded by SVT Barlera. Is there any further discussions and questions regarding this matter? Can't see.
No, there's no.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, seeing none, I'll now can you vote on the table. On the table?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll now go ahead and move into a period of voice vote. All in favor of tabling Senate Bills 5685, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, seeing none with the vote of 7-0 Senate Bill 5685 has been tabled indefinitely. All right, and at 4:43, and I'll go ahead and close agenda item 6B, and at the same time, open agenda item 7. At this time, I'm gonna open public comment. This is a time that anyone from the public may come and speak. Members of the public, you are limited to 3 minutes for your public comment. Please refrain from saying anything slanderous or defamation of character, as I have the right to limit your comment. When you come to the podium, please state your first and last name and spell your last name for the record. Does anyone have any public comment in person? Seeing none, does anyone have any public comment online or through the call line? I'll go ahead and wait 30 seconds for the delay. Okay, seeing none, I will now close public comment at 4:44 PM and at the same time adjourn this meeting.